So we'll stay on that story now. So you would have seen visuals yesterday of the South African Human Rights Commission being met with locked gates at the Nyathi Bush and Riverbreak Lodge near Brits in the northwest. They were there to conduct an inspection of the scene where 13-year-old Parktown Boys High, a pupil, Enock Mpianzi, had died. Now the commission was with the victim's mother, who had to climb over the gates. There have been growing calls for the school to be held to account. Now this as the Gauteng Education MEC, who was speaking there, Panyaza Lesufi, has also promised action. What we do know is that he's calling a press conference on Friday to give an update on the situation. Gaum, who's the South African Human Rights Commission on Education, joins me now live from our Sea Point studios in Cape Town. A very good evening to you, Andre. Thanks indeed for your time. So right now, is the Commission any clearer on the events that led to Enock's death?
Yeah, thank you very much and good evening. Maybe let me first of all say that together with all South Africans, we are very sad about this tragic event. Enock Mpianzi's death was not necessary at all. It's an absolute shame that what happened here occurred, and we want to once again sympathize with the family and everyone involved. Yes, the Human Rights Commission went together with Enock's family to the Nyathi Lodge yesterday. Initially, we were denied access, and eventually, with the assistance of the South African Police Service, we were allowed access, and the purpose of the visit was basically, on the one hand, for the family to start getting some closure, if that is possible, on what has happened, but also, secondly, for us to do an inspection, to look at the surroundings, the river as such, the Crocodile River, and so on. That is the beginning of that process. We will be following that up with a meeting that we intend to take place in the beginning of February, first week of February, with all the parents of the grade 8 learners that were on this excursion, to try and establish the exact facts of what transpired and to get their permission to also talk to their children who were at this particular camp. The Human Rights Commission also indicated to the family that we're willing to facilitate between them and the Gauteng Education Department with regard to the matter of compensation. I see the EFF has also now offered assistance in that regard. We would think that maybe the litigation route is not the best route to follow, but rather that we mediate a compensation possibility between the department as well as the parents concerned. But we indicated to the parents that we will give them the opportunity to reflect now on which route they want to follow.
I think much of the conversation now, Andre, has moved to culpability. So with the information at your disposal currently, do you think, as the Human Rights Commission, that the school was negligent in a number of aspects pertaining to the safety of those children?
I don't want to prejudge that matter from our side. Obviously, we are still in the process of establishing the facts. We will be writing to the school tomorrow to get or to put certain allegations and get their version. So it is too early to say, but from reports, news reports and so on the face of it, there seems to be a problem in this regard indeed.
A problem, you say, but I know that you plan to meet the school, as you've said, and the affected learners as well as the parents and teachers in the first week of February. You did say that you're pushing for some kind of compensation for Mpianzi's family, but you're also pushing for stricter guidelines pertaining to school trips like this that left Enock Mpianzi dead.
That is absolutely correct, yes, and there we can also play a unique role in recommending or even directing the Department of Education nationally and also the provincial departments to, for example, come up with very specific regulations pertaining to these kinds of visits and what and norms and standards as to what should transpire, and we would like to see a broad consultative process that would, and from this should emanate these regulations, because the good thing about regulations is also that they are enforceable, and then we and other role players can make sure that these regulations get enforced. So I think one of the other important things for us is to ensure that something like this does not happen again. And I think there, in terms of guidelines, preferably regulations, that is the correct route to follow as far as that is concerned.
Will you also be looking at perhaps what culpability should be taken on the part of the lodge itself? Part of our colleagues in Kimberley also went to a family that is believed to have lost their child at the very same lodge about 10 years ago, them saying that what happened to Mpianzi has triggered them. Will you also be stretching part of this investigation or probe into, what responsibility the lodge itself should take in all of this?
Yes, I think all aspects will be looked at: the role of the school, the role of the education department even, and the role of the lodge as such as well. Essentially for us, the question when we also do investigations of this nature is whether there has been human rights violations, and then obviously what remedial action should be taken and what we should direct as far as that is concerned.
Yes, I want to talk about some of the visuals that we saw yesterday. Our colleagues were deployed to the lodge when the Human Rights Commission was there together with the deceased family. There was a lot of criticism yesterday when Enock Mpianzi's grieving mother was seen being assisted over the gate of the lodge by the commission after you found that the gates were locked. I mean, there was a lot of criticism regarding that. Was it really necessary to have a grieving mother being paraded in that fashion in full glare of the media as that inspection was being done?
Yes, I think I was not part of that inspection. I cannot really comment on all aspects in that regard, but I mean, if there was conduct that wasn't correct, then that should also be looked at. But the fact of the matter is that it was very important for us to assist the family to visit Nyathi Lodge, to start the process of beginning to get some sort of closure. The family after that also today requested the Human Rights Commission again to accompany them to the mortuary, which we did. So there is continued assistance and cooperation between the Commission and the family, and we, from our side, we really want to see that the necessary action is taken, but also as far as the family is concerned, that we look after their interests in their days of mourning.
All right, I'm afraid we've run out of time. I would have wanted to get to whether the lodge had initially blocked you from gaining access to that lodge itself, but I'm sure we'll have that discussion at a later stage. Andre Gaum, who is the South African Human Rights Commissioner on Education, talking to us on the latest regarding their assistance to Enock Mpianzi's family. Tthe.